I'm going to start recording now. Okay, now that I got this started in a wonderful, meanly time, how are you doing, Uber Clay?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. As always, I appreciate you bringing me on, man. I'm looking forward to this.
And I appreciate you being here almost as much as I appreciate our wonderful channel sponsor, Aho Patchworks. There are wonderful patch restocks always going on right now. You get a beautiful discount whenever you do, and you're supporting me. Okay, let's go on to the next one, I guess. Let's go ahead and start with the betas. How many do we got this month right now?
All right, so we have five solid guns that we can talk about, man. These are the bread and butter. You know, they're all parts kits builds, but they're fantastic. We've got some fantastic stuff to talk about today.
Okay, so let's go with the first one then. What do you got
Okay.
for me first?
So the very first one that we have to talk about today is we have a Shield 45 frame by Optimal.Fail. This is for the 45 caliber Shield, which is not compatible with the existing frames that are out there. I have built two of these, and I helped do. This is Optimal.Fail's project, his frame. I helped him doll it up a little bit, and man, it is fly. I assume your audience will get a chance to see the picture of it.
I'm looking at it right now, and I'm gonna be real with you. This almost it took me a couple seconds to realize this was a printed frame.
Yeah, it's like top tier, and I have run the dog shit out of one of the ones that I built. It's kind of expensive to do round counts on two frames, but I've been running the dog shit out of one, and out of PLA Plus, man, it is holding up like a freaking champ. No issues at all whatsoever.
Okay, so I guess let's get the easy questions out of the way then. So it's going to be using a M&P Shield 45 slide. I'm guessing
Yes.
M&P Shield 45 parts kit is a little bit different from the normal Shield. I see the hinge trigger, so I'm guessing this is going to be a 2.0, not the Plus. So is it going to be using a normal 2.0 like lower parts kit, or does it need is a 45 going to be completely different in that regard? I'm not too familiar with the Shield ecosystem.
No, they're different. You're going to need a Shield 45 parts kit. There's some pretty significant differences because it's wider, and it's very similar to what you see in a 9, but everything's bigger because of the 45, and it's a snappy little pistol, man. I'm really excited about it.
Oh, I mean, personally, I carry an M&P Shield Plus. It's one of my favorite handguns. I get there's the SIG for the 365, but I don't like SIGs. But I will say I do really enjoy my Shield Plus. I think it's one of my favorites. Yeah. The one thing that I don't like about the original Shield is the hinge trigger as much. I like the new bladed trigger, but it's not a bad trigger nonetheless. What I think, let me try to remember how I'm going to ask this. I guess, does it have included rail? Like, is it one of those type of frames parts kits where like,
it does.
I think like the locking block or something has like already a rail attached to it, or is it using just plastic rails?
Nope. The locking block and the rear sear assembly both have integrated rails, so you don't need to buy anything else. You get a parts kit and a mag. That's it. You're good to go. And you print the frame. It builds really easy, just like it. M&P. There's like 2-3 pins, and you're done. So you can literally put it together in probably under 5 minutes.
Well, yeah, I will say this. If you want something that isn't a Glock, I really like the M&P series. It is probably one of my favorites. That being said, I guess I haven't had the opportunity to shoot the 45, but one of these days I wouldn't mind picking up one of these parts kits. I really do like my Shield Plus. It fits just right in my hand. I like it a lot. I really like... I'm wondering if this is a bamboo because I like the grip color thing. It actually does look almost like an OEM Shield, because the Shield, something I do like about the Shield too is they have a lot more color options with it as well. So like I think there is an OD green option if you really wanted one, and it looks almost exactly like this, which is really cool. I think this is actually a really good design. I wonder if the 2.0 also has like an RMR cut slide on them too.
Let's see. Let's see. I have a couple. I have one of mine, or actually, here's both of mine. Well, so I have I have a 1.0 and a 2.0. Neither one of them have an RMR cut on them, but the slide.
Well, I mean, what's RMR? It'd be whatever the shield are, whatever the shield or Hollow Sun Cave.
Yeah,
whatever the micro one is. Yeah.
Yeah, I okay, so I don't know exactly, but I will tell you this: is that rear dovetail is pretty huge. So I would imagine that they manufacture something to go in there that's not a rear sight. Either a
I mean,
red dot or something.
People will argue too is you don't really need a red dot for these type of things, or like for these type of smaller guns anyways. I mean, I will say the M&P like iron sights are really good. Like they are some of my favorite iron sights. So like even if I didn't have a red dot to them or like an optics cut on them, I would be perfectly fine. But I guess I should ask this as well because I think you might have mentioned it. So is it the two or will this frame also work for the 1.0 slide and everything, or is it just 2.0?
Yeah. Nope, it works for both.
Perfect. Okay, yeah. I really like the M&P series. It is one of my favorites. I personally just wanted something that wasn't a Glock, and I think it also has... You also have, what is it, the flush fit mag, which was 10 rounds for the shield, and then like 12 or 13 if you got the extended base plate. I'm not sure how many rounds of 45 do you get with this one. It's a smaller gun, so it's probably not as much.
Yeah, that mag in the picture is 6+1, so it's 7 in the mag.
It looks pretty flush, yeah, though.
Well, it has a. So if you look, you see it's got the. I mean, I don't know if this is how they come standard. This is maybe just be their standard arrangement. The mag itself, though, counts up to 6, and then in the 7th,
is in the base plate.
Yeah. Well, the 7th witness hole says +1, so okay. it holds 6 +1, which should be 7. You could probably get some different, like either a smaller mag or maybe even a +2 mag. I don't know. But
get those goofy extendos, yeah.
I mean, I gotta tell you, with that little base plate on there, holding it in my hand, I mean, it doesn't go past my pinky finger, but my pinky finger, has solid purchase on that floor plate or whatever. So, I mean, it does increase, and look, it's a 45. That thing has got some buck. I mean, it's not as bad as you would think. But it's, I mean, it's still got some, still got some jump to it, big time.
I know, like, the Shield 9mm, or the Shield Plus, is pretty snappy in of its own right. It's not that bad, but it is a little snappy. Right. I can only imagine how the 45 is. But what I was going to say so one other final thing I guess I could kind of add to this, too, is I know the Shield, it doesn't really have a rail in the front. It's not... You can usually use like a TLR 7 or not 7, the 6, whatever like the goofy clamp on one is. I actually have one of them on mine. But is that a Picatinny rail I see added to the frame? To be honest, probably doesn't need one.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think it's just there's a little detail there in the front, but I don't think you could use it for that. I mean, it wouldn't be too hard to throw a Picatinny on the bottom of that, but
that's the one thing.
To your point, I don't know if you would really use it.
Yeah, like to be honest, it's one of those things where like the TLR, I'm trying to remember. It's the goofy clamp on one, but like I got one of my shields just because I got a really good deal on it. It actually kind of ruins it a little bit for me. Of like I can't shoot it with gloves anymore, so like if it's really cold out and I'm carrying, like I have to keep that in mind. But like it does tighten it up a bit. I think it looks cleaner without it, but whenever you do put on like the full red dot or the full like laser one and light one combo, it almost kind of looks like a USP with the laser like aiming module type of thing. And it looks neat to me that way. But aside from that, yeah, it probably is not that big of a deal. Essentially, I guess we would have to avoid going too much onto this one. I would say this is a fun. I like the M&P series. It's a good one if you don't want to build a Glock. I bet, what is it? Your fun little twin brother, Uber Poor, is probably very happy about this one.
Yeah. Yeah, he gets a lot of. It's funny, We always kind of get confused for each other, but here lately he's been getting it a bunch, and it's yeah, I give him a hard time about it. He's a good guy though.
I love Uber Poor, but I find his I
Yeah, he
respect
hates Glock
his
mags.
hatred towards Glocks. It's very
Yeah.
entertaining.
Well, I and kudos to him because the Glock mags has kind of always been the easy way because so all right, I can appreciate someone that holds fast to let's try to in some cases let's make a frame for the OEM mag so if it wasn't for him we would have never had the OEM Ruger P95 so he is always you know uh, pushing for the design to accommodate the OEM magazine,
And that's
and
respectable,
and
in my
not
opinion.
not just a Glock mag.
I think it's rather respectable, in my opinion. But I guess
It is.
with that pretty much said, let's go on to the next one.
Okay, so this is the Libre V2, which is like a lower for the SF5 or perhaps even the MP5. This is by S. I don't know how to say that. S3IP.
Yeah, yeah. I know exactly who this is. The
Yeah,
fun series of numbers. Like I always think of it as like like Sigu or whatever, but
yeah,
obviously that is just my like that's my guess. It's S3IGU2. He does a
yeah.
lot of the like FRT full. I mean, he does legit even full auto stuff, but like super safety stuff as well. But what is this one?
Yeah, so it's just a lower, but it is compatible with the slip trip, and maybe even perhaps designed to host it. But I don't know. He's got all kinds of videos on X, and he may be the reason why I go get one of these kits because these things are fire. It's basically a forced reset trip bar that they run in these, and they look super fun. So this particular build is on, I believe, a SF5, but there's a couple other, and you'll have to forgive me because I don't know in detail the other variants that it supports, but I know that I've seen some other variants with this particular lower, in that family.
Okay, so my big thing with this one is, so this is, I think does this one use an AR-15 fire control group or is
Yes,
this an MP5?
it
Okay,
does.
okay, so
No,
I
it's
mean,
it's an AR-15, and you can see that if you look closely, it has a super safety style safety in it.
yeah, okay. So I think this is a SP9, which is I think I can't really zoom in, but this is like the legit civilian model
Yes.
HK. This is an
Yeah.
actual HK. This isn't a Turkish one with the whole cope of it's made of the same tooling or whatever it is.
Yeah.
This is a
Right.
legit or HK. I'm guessing it probably works in the Turk ones too. Um, yeah, no, I remember seeing this one when it came out, or I think the V1. He always really great guy to visit or follow on like X, and I don't know if he posts on Instagram or not, but usually is always posting his stuff, showing like you could see it work in real time.
Oh
It
yeah.
looks like a blast. I am too poor to own HK, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
take his word for it. If I could have built, if I own an MP5 right now, like yeah, this would be 100% something I'd be doing. I'd be loving to join them up and like build all these things with them, but like unfortunately I don't have the HK money and I'm not going to buy the Turkish cope one, so I will take his word for all of it. But something I do really respect about the guy is I remember when all the whole super safety stuff was going on and like people selling CNC stuff, he's always like the first to just come out and say it's like all of my products are meant to be 3D printed. They are all
Oh
meant to be
yeah.
made printed. You should not get a
Well.
CNC'd. This is not a
Uh.
CNC design. I designed it
Well.
for 3D printed like PLA.
Yeah. And so yeah, in this application, what the problem was is the slip trip bar. It doesn't weigh anything in PLA, but once you go get it made, SLS or something, now it actually has weight, and so it was messing up. I mean, ruining people's guns, or has the potential to ruin your gun, because it's now all of a sudden it's got all this mass that it's traveling back and forth with the bolt. Where PLA, it's a non-issue because it doesn't have enough mass to really do any damage. Plus, it's plastic, where the plastic would, they last forever anyways. But in the event that they would break, it's going to break before your gun. But you go get it made out of stainless or something, that's not necessarily the case. And so it was never meant to run with an SLS trip bar. And, after the first one released, we had to do a big broadcast, because right away, people are trying to be too cool for school and take this, take something that was never designed to be made out of metal and make it out of metal because they thought it would last longer, when the PLA was proven out over, 800 or 1,000 rounds, and, it takes 2 hours to print one, so whatever, you run it for 1,000 rounds and you got to replace it, big deal,
Well, yeah, and again, I respect that. Like, that is something that the developer says, like, himself too. I know Hoffman himself was even saying similar things about the super safety. Of Hoffman was like, he's not upset at anyone that sells the super safety. I guess it's just one of those things where he will kind of just tell you, is like, I made it 3D printed, so why wouldn't you 3D print it? Like, I mean, you could do whatever you want with it. Yeah, it'll work probably. Maybe it'll last a little bit longer, but. It was designed to be 3D printed, so why wouldn't you 3D print it? To each their own, I guess. But, I do like good old S3, whatever, number. He's been doing a lot of cool things with HK stuff. I think, has he been doing AR-15 stuff too? I know he's released like a couple like legit really cool full auto seers that I am just gonna take his word for, because I love my family and my dogs. But like, I remember him he does a lot of cool like full auto stuff too. If you just decide to be a true freeman, if for lack of better words, and decide to go that route. But
he has a super safety for an AK.
Oh, that's right. He did an AK one too, yeah. Because I know he's done a couple of these cool things. Really cool design. I wish I could say more about it. Again, I'm just too poor, but if there's one developer I know that always is like loving to show videos of his stuff working, this guy is one of them, and definitely a good guy to follow too if you want to see just a guy shooting mag dumps again.
Yeah, man. So stuff he's doing is pretty cool. It's very solid and reliable.
But let's go on to the next one, I guess.
Yeah, man. All right. So this one is freaking awesome. So this is the Daedalus. Okay, it's by DB Firearms. His Rocket Chat username is like Purdy a herd. I've got so many DMs of people wanting to like join the beta and trip out over, because they see DB on social media and they come to Rocket Chat, and for whatever reason his username is not the same there. So Purdy Herd is his Rocket Chat alias, but this is a full-on straight up bullpup Glock, and it's based around the 17L, but you can run a 17 kit in it, and that it's recommended to use the blast shield, because if it's not a 17L, the muzzle is slightly behind your trigger finger, but you've got plenty of stuff there to not expose your hand to muzzle flash. But it is, if you're looking at the picture, people at home, you can see it's got a little foldable brace. He's positioned the trigger well in front of the magazine there, and the thing is super cool. So I guess it's even more of a bullpup. I guess maybe it's already a bullpup, and then now it's a turbo bullpup.
Well, we're asking the age-old question, I guess, is a handgun technically a bullpup, because the trigger is kind of in between.
Yeah,
but
it is. But yeah, now it's an
undeniable question. I will say, Control Pew in shambles. I guess it's been done now.
Right.
I remember when Control Pew was trying to do the bullpup Glock, which. Yes. I remember I was with them. It must have been 2022. It was when I uploaded my Firebolt video, and I was shooting with him back then. Sadly, that video got taken down off of YouTube because of a lack of fun, but it's still an Odyssey, I believe. That one,
okay.
Pew also had the bullpup Glock, and it was going through some issues, I guess. That one kind of one of the quicker ones, that one of the back burner that I guess few people will remember. I'm one of them. I do remember when I
Mm.
saw DB posting this one. I still stand by this. Of I look forward to trying this out when it releases. I am not going to be a beta tester for this one. I'm just I love DB. He is proven as one of the better developers by far. Always tests things extremely well. Always has a really
Yeah.
good quality. Has a good aesthetic to his like designs too. I mean, it looks pretty. I'm not going to deny it. It looks great. But
It's styled up, you know.
that being said, though, this is a bullpup Glock, and I know where that trigger is, and I know where that muzzle is,
Uh-huh.
and you are,
Uh-huh.
you know, betas
Yep.
are fun, but betas are also not released products, and there is always the possibility of issues. But this one, like, if it does end up when this one finally releases, because I bet it will with DB behind it, I do trust him as a developer that he'll probably see
Yeah.
this one through. But
Well, the beta got a lot of action, especially early on, and I've seen several builds. In fact, I think what you're looking at here, only the one of those is DB's. The other one is a beta tester, and
is that the
I mean,
goofy one with the Magpul iron bust sights?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is
The
okay.
so obviously, if there was a any kind of real problem, we would know about it right away. The fact that this thing's probably got a dozen, if not maybe a couple of dozen, built and firing already is relatively. I mean, they're still doing tweaks, to it, but nothing that is like it doesn't function or it's dangerous. So, but you're right. I mean, it is obviously, if you're going to build this with a regular 17 slide instead of 17L, that's going to put the end of the muzzle uncomfortably at the same plane as your trigger finger. However, that's why it's got the dust cover and the blast shield on there. So people have been shooting it so far with no issues, but I understand the desire to wait till it gets released, and that's never a bad thing because sometimes you end up. I mean, be a beta tester, you got to be willing to kind of print it a bunch of times, have several revisions, and use up a lot of filament, to help further that process. And we need more beta testers, definitely. But you have to be willing to do that.
Well, yeah, no, betas are not early access. You're actually
Nope.
helping with the design, and you're also helping it test. So, like, it's one of those things where, like, if you don't think you're actually going to test it and you aren't going to really be a part of it, there's really no point of joining it, I would say. But, like, if you do find it, if you do see this and think, wow, that's really cool, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to try it. Then you're exactly the person this is for. This is exactly what we're trying to do here.
Yes.
In that case, yeah, you should be, by all means, be the one to do it. You'll be the tester. I will say, I do wonder, can you buy it as like a 17L barrel and put it in a 17 slide?
You probably can. I've done a bunch of weird shit like that with Glocks, and you'd be surprised what'll swap around and work.
Because I know
you probably could buy a 17L barrel.
Because I know they make a 16-inch. I know they make a 16-inch like Glock barrel for a couple of like stupid things, but like it does work. You might have to like change the recoil spring or something, but like yeah, I do wonder
it a little bit.
Yeah, like I wonder like if you could get a long enough barrel.
Man, can you imagine that motherfucker with a 16-inch barrel?
Oh, it would be goofy.
Shit,
that would be some curse stuff. Like
I might have to do that.
I mean, you've seen, was it Ivan's 3011 with a 16-inch barrel?
Oh,
right?
it's so great.
Yeah.
That's one of the sad things. I could never find anybody, at least not yet, that would make me a 16-inch Ruger barrel for like a recession rifle. Yeah. But putting a 16-inch barrel in this thing would be pretty fun.
Glocks are, again, I was telling someone this not too long ago of like, I don't necessarily like Glocks that much, but what I do give Glock credit for is that they have by far one of the best aftermarket markets out of any other like handguns out there. So it's just like you could probably find a 16-inch barrel Glock barrel for some other purpose that exists out there that you probably would have never thought about. But like, hey, this is a perfect idea for this.
They probably just make it because because of retards like us.
I mean, like, there's probably just someone who has. It's one of those questions of like they didn't know why they did it; they just could, and they
Yeah,
decided to do it
right,
anyways. But
right.
yeah, like I would say, if I could get like a 17L barrel, I could totally build this like instantly, and I wouldn't feel as like tense. Or if they made like just maybe a little bit longer, like a 17L, where I could
Well,
have like a threaded
the other
barrel and
thing
I
you
can attach
do,
a muzzle
yeah,
comp to it or something.
that's where I was going with that. Is you could probably rock a 17 with threaded barrel and just put some kind of
Like linear
flash
comp.
scan or some shit. Yeah, linear comp, something on there, just to kind of get the end of the barrel out another couple inches. You know.
Yeah, no, I like this one a lot. I mean, as much like as while I am kind of throwing my little reservations there. That being said, this is by far one of the cooler ones. Of like, yeah, no, I'm gonna totally build this once it releases. But like, it looks like if anything, I'm guessing the trigger mechanism is. That's the one thing I'm wondering is a little bit different. Of do you even use the same trigger bar as this?
Yeah, you know what, looked at it a little bit, but it's been a minute. I want to say that what they're doing is they're modifying the OEM trigger, maybe taking out the shoe, and then that's where your linkage goes for the the extended bullpup trigger or something like that. Where I'll have to refresh my memory, but what you do, I think, is you punch the pin out on that little the trigger safety, the little
Yeah, no shit.
shoe that catches on the inside of the frame, and and then you replace it with the maybe a piece of linkage, and that's where it hinges off of. That's what I seem to remember, but it has been like I looked at this when it very first rolled out, and then unfortunately, my life has been so busy I can't participate in a lot of betas like I used to, other than the ones that I actually have right now. So I haven't found time to print this, but I probably will. I just haven't,
I mean, it's one of the
got to.
more interesting ones, I will say. I mean, luckily from I
Oh,
see I can point at like most of this. I already see that this is using mostly Glock parts anyways. I just only bring that up
yeah,
because that's the one thing that instantly stands out to me besides I guess like the 3 cross bolts that are in the front that are honestly not like Glock.
yeah,
But yeah, no, like, it seems like a normal Glock part is going to work. You could probably just get whatever screws these are and then whatever the folding mechanism is on the brace, and you could probably piece it together. But like, yeah, out of all the ones this month, I guess this one just looks the most interesting, I will say.
yeah. It's a great example of taking a concept and bringing it to life. Which is kind of one of the cores of the GunCAD and the 3D2A is. We do stuff just based on imagination, and we'll figure out how it's all going to work later. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I want to make a space gun, or I want to make a bullpup Glock, and you just dive into it. And yeah, I think DB's done a great job. Looks really good.
Well, okay, let's go on to the next one, I guess.
Yeah, man. Okay, so we're going to talk about releases later, but this is the Sphynx V2, and the reason that's a V2 is there was a Sphynx release again that we will talk about, but the V2 tackles some of the more outlying Beretta frames, like the Taurus knockoffs and some different things like that. So, the one that was rolled out, it covers the bulk of all your mainline frames, and you know from what Katz has told me, the Beretta 92 and all its variations are there's a lot of different varieties, and so at some point he decided that he was going to break that project up into a couple of stages because it was just going to be too much to try to get it all under one release. So, anyways, we started the V2. That's for all like your Taurus frames and some different things like that, and that's what's currently going on now. And what you see here are two examples of that.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I was gonna mention because I remember I talked to our cats a while ago, actually on the channel, but I think I had to take it down because A lot of my streams got in trouble, believe it or not. I was included in a fun little article where people were talking about some guy who just likes to laugh at anti-gun documentaries or something. And, apparently then next thing I know, a bunch of strikes on my channel out of nowhere. I don't know why. But,
yeah.
well, some friendly fire was done and some collateral damage was done, and I think that one was also taken down. But
Wow.
I do remember talking to Katz about this as well, and I was talking to him about the Brazilian PT, whatever the hell it is called. And this is exactly what I remember him telling me about, how it's not the same. Those are pieces of garbage, favela trash, which, there's an agreement there. I can agree with him a little bit on that. But
Yeah.
like, those are way cheaper than your typical, your normal, M9s or Berettas.
They are.
But
They are.
yeah, they I guess are just slightly different. There is one thing I do like a little ergonomically wise, of the frame safety does feel a bit nicer. I'm glad to know that was Cat's solution to it, of he just wasn't going to just decide to abandon those ideas. I'm glad he just decided to break up the release in that regard, because
Right.
yeah, for what it seemed like, there was just a bunch of different Beretta frames, and this way I guess he can kind of still release something that he did put a lot of time and effort to now include, but now like at least tackle the rest, I guess.
Yeah. I think that's appropriate. You go ahead and roll out what is good, and the beta's been going on for a very long time, and so we go ahead and kick out the lion's share of it, and then they're going to spend the rest of this time nailing down the outliers.
Now the question is, did he do the Turkish one, the silly Grissons?
Yeah, maybe. I know him and I were. We were discussing well, it wasn't an argument, but we were
I've had this conversation before. It probably was a little bit of an argument.
I bid on a Gerson kit on Gunbroker, and the next thing I know, I get a DM, and he says, "You're not getting that fucking kit, right?" It's like, "What do you mean, man?" He's like, "Yeah, he's like, no, man, I have my eye on that kit, man. You can't buy that, And what's funny is that this was early in the week. As the week progressed, Agent Square, if you're listening, that was the kit that you ended up with, and another guy ended up bidding on it. And at the time, I was winning like way too many auctions, and I was like, "Fuck it, man! You can just have this thing. I'm not going to go up on it anymore." It was a really Gucci Gerson with all the fancy shit, and
the Sultan Ivory. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Oh yeah, it was balls out. I was pretty excited because it would have made and it did make a nice build. I'm sure Agent Square did it right, but it went for like $300, I think, or $3+, and you know how it goes sometimes on auction night, man. I expect to wash out, but then on a lot of the bids, but then sometimes you don't, and you end up spending more money than you originally anticipated. So that was one of those nights where I ended up winning way more auctions than I had anticipated. So I cut that one loose.
Yeah, no.
Anyways,
I'll say maybe I'll see if I can get Cats on again. Probably that's a little update, but I remember me asking him once, because I saw they had a Grisson once, and it was like, I was a Tisos one or whatever the Turk one, for like $200 in my like gun shop, and I was like, $200, man, that's like 22 or is 9mm? 9mm?
Yeah, you're like, that's a deal, baby.
I was like, that's too much of a deal. That's a steal. Well, what's wrong? Well, what's going on with this one? I remember that was when I messaged Cats at some point. I'm like, hey, like, is this one gonna be like? Is this one of the ones that you would include? It's like, God, no, that's a piece of Turkish garbage. Like, okay, great. So I wonder if he's changed his opinion on that. I think it'd be a good time to follow up with Kat, see how he's doing. After all, it's YouTube unfortunately took our stream down, so you know what? It's maybe a good time to bring it back. But aside from that, I like Kat's design. I'm glad to see that he finally released the other one. Maybe that might be. Well, I won't say any more about that because I'm assuming that's going to come up next soon. But I like the V2 in that regard. I'm glad to see he's picking up the rest of the other ones.
Right. No, it's good. But go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we got one more coming up after this. It's this is the Lurkin. So This one is pretty exciting. It's from
So.
Crawdad, and this is a Lurkin. Dr. Death was very excited about this. It's a Lurkin 380. So, we've talked about doing Lurkin frames for a long time. They're dirt cheap. I mean, sometimes you can win them on Gunbroker for $20. I mean, they're really, really prevalent because having a frame for them is a little bit tricky. So I don't know if you can see, but if you will zoom in, can you tell me what you see securing the barrel to the frame?
What in the? Wait. Well, okay. Someone sent a carrier pigeon to the airship man himself.
Yeah.
Wait.
No. So we're going all the way Hoffman on these Lurkins. Yeah, we're straight up hose clamping. We are straight up hose clamping the Lurkin barrels to the printed frames. And believe it or not, man, that shit is working, and it's amazing. So yeah, you're going to literally have a firearm that is absolutely dirt cheap. If gun grabbers pay attention, printable, unserialized, and a barrel that is held onto the frame by a hose clamp. I can't wait till one of these makes it to an evidence table because they're going to be like, "Oh my god." But anyways, that's the other beta or the last beta that we launched.
I mean, okay, yeah. Well, it's a shame Dr. Death isn't here to talk to us about wonderful Lurkins. For those who don't know, Lurkins are a piece of garbage. But hey, that being said, you can get them for cheap.
He's gonna beat your ass for that.
He's not right? Here today. He's still out getting the milk for us. But that being said, though, is that this is. The hose clamp is
it's just that little extra, like
I wonder what Crawdad was thinking. I'm just thinking of something along the lines of like, well, it's a Lurkin, so why not? Like type of logic. This is
I bought a frame to reverse engineer. And it was a 9. It wasn't. I don't think it was a Lurkin. It was a Jennings, maybe. I don't know. It was. I wanted it at another auction.
Garbage by a different name, yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the Ring of Fire, and they're all the same. I mean, basically, there's very little difference between them all. And it's the way that those barrels are fixed was a bit of a showstopper, man. Like I started reverse engineering it to be printed, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do with this. These are the Zamac gun or the Zamac guns, I guess, or whatever you call it. But these guys, that's how they solve that problem. And I've seen this similar to this done with the 22, but this is a 380, and they've got it working, man. So testing continues. So far, it looks very promising.
No, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the printed frame is probably better than the original one. That being said, though,
sure.
I need to see more footage of this one shooting with the silly hose clamp because I want to tag Tim in it, and I want to see Hoffman's opinion. I want to see what the Hoffel man thinks about this. I wonder if this will be. I wonder what he thinks about this one. Next thing we need is actually no. There was that one guy working with a bolt through Glock frame for Spooky.
Right.
One that just used a bunch of M3 screws across.
Oh my god.
But yeah, okay, this is. All right, I got nothing else to add to this one. In all honesty, this is
it's the horrors persist, right?
Yeah, all right.
Welcome to the Lurkin.
All
right, well, let's talk about. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's all right. You shocked me. I did not. I honestly did not expect this one. Wow. Okay. All
right, it's we. That's the real deal right there with the fucking hose clamp. Anyways,
yeah.
All right, so releases. We have 4 in December, which is December was a pretty good month. The first one, we had the release of the main Sphynx V1, which is the Beretta 92 M9 printed frame. And I'm going to prepare everyone. When you download this and you look at it, there is a legend. I mean, I don't know what the number of frames is, but it's probably like 25 or 30 frames in here, and it's all the mainline variants of Beretta. So if you're expecting to open this up and find 1 frame or 2 frames, like that is not what you're going to find. And I had several people DM me and go like, "Holy shit, what frame should I print?" And I go, "Well, you're going to have to read the README and figure out what." Yeah, figure out what kit you got. I can't tell you what frame to print, but it's amazing. The documentation is amazing. Cass did a great job, and all of these releases in December, I thought were pretty stellar in that regard. But anyways, that's a long time coming, and I was very proud, to be a party to presenting it and getting it out. And so there's a lot of M9 and Beretta 92 frames out there, and so this is going to take care of all that.
Oh yeah,
and it's dope. It's a dope frame.
I will say that's a rather funny thing because actually I think it was Dinka Rubles. He was the one that was he posted a video of his like README with like Subway Surfers and like the what basically he was getting upset because people weren't they were asking because he worked on a bolter thing. And he was telling me about it. I was like, oh, people were asking questions about it. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? It's like, did you not read it yet? So he decided just to upload a video of him scrolling through the README with basically Subway Surfers, and then another one with basically the typical TikTok, YouTube shorts music, or license free music with the fun, it's, I don't know what's the right way to describing it, but it's almost like the guys shaving soap, injecting air into water, with a microscope or stuff, the bolster, basically just the brain rot, turn off your brain. You're just getting you need to get that sensory overload type of stuff of, oh, would you look at that? Here's a guy popping bubbles and stuff. It's like that type of stuff. But
I want to clown on that, but I have to be real. I've been guilty of that before too. Pemby sent me a Gopnik, one of those AK binary things that he was printing, and I think he was, the ones I have are nylon, and he sent me some to test, and I like a dumbass, I got it and I put it in, it didn't work, or it didn't work as expected because I didn't read anything or follow any instructions, and I texted him, his response was, "Didn't you read the README?" I was like, dumbass. No, I didn't. Let me go do that real quick. I won't bother you anymore,
I know exactly how you feel about it. That's exactly what I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm more than guilty of it myself as well. I look, all right, I don't want to read it, but
yeah,
it's an important thing to do. It's there for us for a reason. But I do. I'm really glad that Katz was able to release it and everything. But I find that funny. I remember him telling me about it. There was a lot of extra work to it. So it's funny that it was 26 different variants.
Dude, it is intense, man. That is it's no small task. You could tell that was there's a ton of hours in that. And if you're Katz has got a superhuman level of autism, I think, on this. It is intense, man. But great job. It's top tier. It is absolutely top tier.
All right, let's go to the next release then.
Yeah, the next one, straight up, Dinka Rubles, is the baby bolter, like you were talking about,
okay,
right?
So I already talked about it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Man, I got, he, again, did a great job. First class documentation. What this is a Mac that's dressed up like a bolter, and it's the baby bolter, right? And so, super cool. It's got Evo mags, I think, or some, or no, maybe it's Sten mags. But it's the curved. It's a Sten mag, but it's curved. Yeah, so that's what's up. And it's a cool design, man. It's if you're all about that Warhammer life, man, you should download this and you need to build it. It's cool. I mean, it is another Mac variant, but I like it. And
it looks a lot like a Warhammer gun, which makes it look way cooler.
Yeah, it's super dope. I mean, he put a lot of time and energy, and what's great is that he did the guide like an IKEA instruction manual, and it's like super graphical, where it's like it's not as dry as what you see in some of these assembly guides. And so I got a kick. There's a lot of little hidden Easter eggs in it too. If you look at it, I sent him a couple of DMs with some screenshots, and I was like, really? And he intentionally put a bunch of little jokes and Easter eggs in that assembly guide for people to find, and there's some humor in there. But first class release.
But I mean, it's a Mac frame. Cool. We know Mac frames, but this one does look pretty cool in my opinion, and that makes it stand out to me of an interesting thing. It almost looks like it has side plates, but I think they're printed side plates, which is actually something that I'm kind of curious on of how well those work compared to like doing a send cut send. Because I think that kind of you are sort of doing a similar thing in a way, but
it's got provisions to do it both ways. There's actually an instruction set or a section in there about getting them, made in send, cut, send, and how to submit the step file for it. And then there's a section on if you're just going to print it yourself, even print it out of nylon, whatever you want to do. And I got to tell you, I imagine you print that out of nylon, especially. It's going to be every bit. I mean, it's not going to be metal, but it's the stuff that I've done like that out of nylon is damn near indestructible, man. Like, I've been really surprised. It holds up.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, it's a Mac frame, but it's a cool looking Mac frame. Really good documentation. And again, I did find him. I found his way of getting around people asking him still stupid questions about it rather funny. But other than that, I guess, if you like Warhammer 40K, here you go. It's a baby bolt there. What else? You didn't need me to tell you to print it. You were probably already going to do it anyways. But
right.
I guess let's go on to the next one, then.
All right. The next one is the People's Ruger. This was, technically my release. I am I am fortunate because there is a ton of people that worked on this project, before I came along and then, collaborated with. So backstory on this, go back like 2 to 3 years even. Chairman Juan had a P95 frame.
I was going to say this.
And it was totally printable, right? It's a lot of us OGs out there, is some of our first prints, right? And it was not a bad frame, but it PLA in the way that the Ruger P series works, especially in the traditional configuration with the rear sear, what I call the sear levers. The pins are very small, and that area is very thin, and so it is not uncommon for those to fail. And you can sometimes get 200-300 rounds out of them, no problem, in the old printed frame. But depending on your quality of print, depending on how dialed in your printer is, and your layer adhesion, results may vary. So what I did is I took the P89 rails that I have for my P89 frame, and I adapted them to this frame. And so this uses metal rear rails that are available from Riptide. And I've got 2 versions of this. There's one that takes Glock mags, and there's one that takes Ruger OEM mags. And if you use the Ruger OEM mag frame, you don't have to modify the slide catch, and it works with the last round hold open and all that good stuff. So really excited about this. They're big and thick, and I wanted to make Chairman's old frame was great. It was more ergonomic, but it sacrificed thickness for that. This is not as ergonomic. However, it is indestructible, which is kind of the way that the way I see the Ruger P series is their tanks. And I really wanted to have a frame that I thought was as robust and durable as the original factory gun and what I believe that the parts kits deserve. So this gun is basically, I think it's maybe it's not quote unquote indestructible, but I think it could put up with as much abuse as you could throw at it and still be fine.
I mean, I was gonna say, because I know I've played around with the Chairman One's old 95 frame. I think his like original one. Technically, if
Yep.
you want to play be a true loreman, I guess that is like his that was his original stipple. I guess his original first stipple was the, I guess, yeah, P95 frame. Uh,
Yeah. I think it is his very first project, even probably.
I think, well, he was telling me, I think he did like a Ruger 1022 thing first, but it was kind of, I don't think he ever released it. It was just more of like
Yeah.
it was just a 1022 he did on his own, and that's just kind of like, okay, well, whatever. But
Right.
I know the Ruger was his, I think that was his first thing. But like, yeah, no, compared to both of them, I would say yours looks more like what the actual Ruger would look like.
Right.
It has that almost, yeah, I guess the P95, they came out in like the 90s, right? 95, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I,
got
I,
that,
I tried to pay homage to the original design. You
yeah,
know.
it looks very much like the original 95 of like that
Definitely.
very, I don't know a better way of saying like blocky Ruger air, Ruger style type of like thing or like grip.
Yeah. It's like an '80s Camaro or something. You know what I mean? It's like, it's got that like, um, it's like injected molded plastic. This was some of the first plastic frames, that Ruger was playing around with, and it was almost like witchcraft back then. And so, you look at these and you think, um, my God, the front rails they're so big, and the stuff that they were doing, because I think nobody really knew what the capabilities of this this new frontier of polymer framed guns was going to yield, and what they could do and be safe and get away with. So they just completely over engineered everything like ad nauseum,
Oh
and
yeah.
it makes for a heavy gun, but my experience is they'll eat any kind of ammo you throw at them, and they're very hard to break. Like they're just, like I say, they're tanks. And they'll put up with almost anything and still work. So, um, that's kind of what I thought this brought to the table. The release trailer that I produced used the song, "Fat Bottom Girls," right? Because it's kind of like the way I see this frame is that, she's just a fat bottom girl bitch, throwing it down. You know what I mean? And I don't know. They're cool. They're cool in my book. I'm a dumbass for Rugers anyway, so
I
I'm like trying to bring all the Rugers back.
I mean, yeah, there's a special place in my heart for this like original type of Rugers. I mean, I like the older goofy like this was like, yeah, you're right. That's the best way to describe it. It's like it was just like around when like people were still trying to figure out what you could do with
Uh
polymer
huh.
guns. Like you got your
Yep.
Glock stuff, which I guess that was revolutionary at the time. But like the Ruger polymer stuff always kind of looked more
Yeah.
I don't know the right way of describing it, but yeah, it was. You got your stuff that like, yeah, you got your Glock, which is a bigger one that people know about, and then you got the Ruger. One of these looks
Yeah.
a little more, I guess. I feel like you could sell a Glock for military police departments. The Ruger one was just more of like this is a, all right, I guess that
Yeah.
works.
And what's funny is that they had to be drug kicking and screaming to produce high capacity magazines, and most of these, a lot of the early P series didn't even have, like, it was a stretch to get a 15 round mag, right? So, what I'm finding, especially with the 45 frames and stuff, is they like didn't even really want to produce these high capacity magazines.
Well,
So it's kind of funny.
I mean, I was kind of thinking. I didn't want to use the exact word for it, but actually this is probably around that time for Ruger where they tried to make guns that didn't look, scary, and
Yeah,
this is
they
when
were like
like. The,
baked in FUD guns.
like yeah, you look at a Glock and you look at this and you think like, oh, this is around the similar time
Uh
frame,
huh.
anyways. But like this one looks clearly different than a Glock, but they could have probably made it look thinner. But this one looks a little more, I guess, like not military. I would probably describe.
Yeah, I will say though that if you were to take guns from from the same era, I would probably put my money on the Ruger. The Ruger's gonna, the Glock. You're gonna break the Glock first. I mean, running it over and trashing it or abusing it, leaving it out in the rain, whatever. The Rugers they're just so over engineered, very hard to damage, and they work even under duress. Even in during beta, when I would have frames, my testers would have frames that for some reason would fail. They still operate. They just don't operate in like all the different. You know,
Dishes.
yeah, like maybe they only operate in single action or something like that. But it's amazing to me. You'd have all kinds of shit breaking, going wrong with it, and still function. So it's pretty amazing.
No, yeah, I mean, again, it's a fun little piece of history. I do like them.
And the kits are really cheap too. By the way, I'll throw that out there. You can get. I mean, they're a little more expensive now because we actually have frames for them, but you can still get a P95 kit for $50 to $75 at the auction. So you can throw down a set of rails cost you $20. So under $100, you got a 9mm.
I mean, we'll see.
Put a clock mag in.
We'll see how long that lasts. Where you can mark it now, but yeah, no, I will say, yeah, no, the Ruger is always one of the fun ones for me. I do like the old. There's just something about that blockiness that just looks. I don't know. It's just so unique that you will never see that ever again. I mean, Ruger at least has kind of moved away from the funniness a bit, and they've gone now with like. I guess we could go to the conclusions now, but like, yeah, I know, like their new it's a Glock chassis thing.
It's like a RXM. Is that what it is? I think it's called the RXM.
It's called the RXM, and they're working with Magpul on it, where it's basically
so stupid.
Yeah,
it's like the most basic bitch striker pistol ever.
Well, I mean, it's their version of a chassis frame Glock clone that can use Glock mags.
Well, and it is and it isn't, because it uses that FCU. It's got a serialized FCU that like a Steyr that fits down, and so Magpul makes that. You can't even really call it a frame. It's like a grip module, like a SIG, and then. I guess presumably they would offer different styles, and you could just pull the FCU out and pop it in the other one.
I mean, I will say this: like, I do like Magpul, and I mean, people know about Magpul grips on ARs and stuff, so like, it's probably good in some regard, I guess. Of like, if Magpul put their stamp on it, it probably is better than most. But, it's still one of those things. I mean, I bet you could probably make a bunch of printed frames for it too, I guess, because it uses lock mags already. It's all of the pressure. I guess the actual firearm is technically the grip module, so you could just pop it out and just make your own frame for it.
The firearm is not the grip module, I don't think, because I looked at the pictures.
Oh yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, it's a grip module, so it's exactly like the SIG thing, where it's just basically a Glock. It's not a Glock, but uses Glock mags and whatever.
If you looked at that, the FCU is serialized, and there's a cutout on that grip module so it can be read assembled. So that's going to be your serialized part. So I don't know how parts kits are going to work with that. If they're going to have to take it out of the FCU and say I don't know. It's going to be.
It's going to be a mystery for sure, I would say. I mean, that's the one thing I'm looking forward to, is we'll be going to SHOT Show again this year. Is what is it? Yeah. The Staccato is now doing their own. What is it? It was Stealth Arms made the Platypus, which is a 2011 that uses Glock mags. Which, in all honesty, from what I've heard, was like actually a pretty it was a goofy name to call it Platypus, but apparently it worked, and like it wasn't that expensive either. It was pretty cheap for 2011's cost. It was reliable enough. It did what it wanted to do. I think it even had like an RMR cut for it, and that wasn't that hard, like expensive. It was all under like $2,000. And now Staccato finally decided to come out with their own version of it, which is over $2,000, of course, because it's Staccato, and it uses Glock mags. It has one good thing about it is it's got the proper red dot and front sight post arrangement where it looks goofy, where it's like the front sight post is pushed above the red dot, which I prefer. It actually makes more sense when you have a red dot, because it looks a little bit better and cleaner in my opinion. But if you don't have a red dot, it's really stupid and is very goofy. But it's sort of more or less playing up on the idea of you are going to put a red dot on it anyway, so it shouldn't even really matter to begin with. That being said, though, is the one interesting part of all of that was Metgar apparently made a mistake, and they accidentally listed some Glock mags. Glock doesn't make metal
Oh
mags.
yeah, right. I saw that. Yeah,
Yeah, Glock doesn't make metal mags, so someone or Metgar is going to be making metal Glock mags.
yeah.
Interestingly enough, huh?
I saw
So,
that.
what will happen for that? What does that lead us to? What is that going to mean for everyone? Who knows? Hell, it'd be kind of interesting to see, like, who wants to be the developer to be, that one guy who makes a specific, frame for only using Glock metal frames, I guess. I think the trick with those was right. I think because it's what Stealth Arms 2 or the not Stealth Arms, whatever the one that does the Shield Arms, that's the one, Shield Arms for their like 43 mags, which is essentially like a shaved Glock 19 mag. They remove all the polymer and just have a metal one. But the
Oh
issue
wow.
is that the polymer, if you put a polymer mag catch on a steel mag like that, it destroys the mag catch, so you have to replace the mag catch with
Oh,
like,
that's right. Yeah,
yeah. So like
absolutely.
that's sort of the thing, I guess. So I mean, the staccato, yeah, it's probably going to be a metal mag catch. That's probably why they're making a metal mag all to begin with.
Yeah, you
But
have to. Yeah, I mean, you could run it for a little while, but you're absolutely right. Yeah, it'll eat the mag catch.
right, and that's also why you're not supposed to put like an aluminum mag catch with a metal, like with a normal polymer Glock frame. I
Right,
mean, you can if you want to. It's just stupid, and you're going to just damage your Glock mags more, which is why you shouldn't do it. But
right,
yeah,
right.
it's interesting. It seems like well, the joke for the 3D printed gun community is, oh, everyone wants everything to run with Glock bags. That also just so happens to be the joke with like the actual gun industry itself. Of look what Ruger literally just released a new Glock clone that uses Glock mags. Okay, wow, would you look at that? All right, real innovation here. Or a staccato that uses Glock mags. Oh, but these ones are metal this time. Oh wow, okay, that's really shocking us now. Like, yeah, it seems like
Yeah,
that is the innovation of
I
2025.
saw. Yeah, I saw that some staccato hype, for Shot Show, and they were showing that and bragging on like the grip angle and all this other stuff. And man, I there's some people are going to disagree with me, but that just the staccato does not appeal to me for some reason. It's
It's
just
not. It's not great. It's like it is what it is. Like, yeah, it's an okay 1911. It's a good 2011,
eh.
but like when you're
I
getting
mean,
2011's like 2011's like you can get really good ones for a lot more. Staccato is like the poor person's 2011, really.
yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. I got there's way more 9 millimeters that I could see myself and actually enjoy shooting. I don't know if I think that I would go for one of those, to be honest with you. I mean, hell, man, my old M9 Steyrs and shit. I mean, they're fire. I couldn't, especially at the price tag those staccatos are at. You'd have, I mean,
No,
it's
yeah,
just
I
not.
would get a CZ or like get a Shadow 2 or
Oh,
something for that price.
yeah,
But
shadows are fire.
oh
I'd
yeah,
love to do that.
they're a better firearm in my opinion. But like, I mean, I'd if I'm gonna buy a 1911, I'd buy one 45 because why wouldn't I? It's a
Right.
1911. But like, it's
Or a
uh,
10 mil.
I
I,
mean,
I, I like that 10 mil build that DB did a while back. I could see myself doing something like that.
I like what Rice Cutter was doing with the 2011 Glock like thing. I got to shoot that one not too long ago. I was it's a nice frame in that like feeling of it does kind of feel like it does feel almost a little bit like a 1911 in a way, and it's just a Glock
Mm.
though that is made to look like a 1911 basically. It's it's
That's what we
goofy.
do.
It's
Yeah, that's what
goofy.
we
It's
do.
cursed, but like as much as we like to, yeah, as much as I'm like, kind of making fun of it, like, yeah, that's something that I could totally see some gun company now going the route of. I mean, hell, maybe Ruger. Someone's gonna make a
Yeah.
grip module for the Ruger that is
I mean,
basically exactly that.
Keltec's bringing back fucking stripper clips,
Oh
right?
my
And
god,
handguns.
that
So
is that to me was the best out of all of them. We need to.
I'm like, holy shit,
Like when I saw that, I was like, well, one company's decided, instead of looking to the future, we're looking to the past. All right, that is I
I
guess
mean, I I got to be honest with you though. Like, if Ruger's like offered a updated, or not even an updated, but like you could buy a brand new T89 or something like that, I would buy one, man. Just because that, it's like I'll bring back some retro stuff. I don't know, man. That stripper clips. I mean, that's unique, man, and it's totally on brand for Keltec to do something like that. But I don't know, man.
I got to
I'd
shoot
have to wrap my head around that.
I got to shoot at my
Go
friend's
ahead.
Mauser. Whatever the God is it?
The C96.
It's a C96, but it was chambered at
Yeah.
9mm. So
Cool.
but like
Yeah.
he was giving me the stripper clips and he was explaining to me how it worked. I might upload the video of me shooting it, but like I think I did. I'm not sure if I did, but it was way harder to load that than you would think it was. Like it was.
Oh man,
It was one of those things
man.
where it's like, you kind of got to press, like it doesn't hold, and the slide doesn't hold back. Or I say slide, it's not really a slide; it's the bolt.
It's like, it's like loading a fucking SKS with stripper clips.
Yeah,
It sucks.
It's a bolt, so you got to hold it back by your hand, and then like the 9mm little stripper clips don't hold. Maybe those were just very worn stripper clips, for all I know, which in of itself is its own problem that we need to address also. But it's like some of them are kind of falling out, and then when you press it in, like you shove it down, it's also sometimes it doesn't line up perfectly, so then you get this weird fumbled like 9mm that's now going to cause the whole thing to like jam up and clog up basically, and trying to it is more of a pain than it is useful. But then again, this is also an old Mauser that was, World War I tier. So like, you would hope that like this would be, this has been worked out. This is a modern day version of it, right? So this isn't going to have the same problems. One of the benefits, though, I will say that I liked about that Mauser was it was one of those older ones. So I guess you didn't have whatever the rule for it was, but it had the stock also attachment. That was so nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
So cool having the stock one on it. It felt great. But like, you felt like it's like the artillery Lukers where it's like this is you could use the sights out to like 300 yards, 400 yards, or whatever.
Damn.
Well, it's like
that's funny.
Well, it's like who's gonna do? Why would you do that? But it did feel nice having it like against your chest. But the downside is it was not very ergonomic. You kind of had to shoot it a little weird. And oh dear God, the slide bite or hammer bite was brutal. Like it was. This was one of those guns where, like, it was. You don't really. A lot of the comfort, that we have now, like beaver tails and other cool things, were not really thought of back then.
You take it for granted. Yeah.
Yeah. You try to go for your nice little like competition style grip on there, and you're gonna have a bleeding web of your hand.
Oh my God.
But with that, I guess, I'll leave it there. SHOT Show should be fun. I'm not sure if I'll be doing anything upload anything for that. To be completely honest, I want to do more streams. I wanted to do a lot of streams for the past couple months. There was a lot of things that happened, believe it or not. But, my wings were clipped a little bit with all the strikes, to say the very least. I mean, for the best...
I was going to say that, before we wrap up, we got one more beta, or one more release to talk about.
Oh,
did you see what that last release is?
No, what was it? Oh,
yeah, the FTN, man, the FTN.4. So like that was a December release, and that was PLA boy, right? Obviously, but this was highly anticipated, and that was. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that. It's got some cool stuff in there.
Just because we're ending things up and we're wrapping it up. Hey, you know what? I want to keep my profile just a little bit lower for about a couple months, just one couple more months. But I will say this, and this will be my little thing to say about this one is,
follow all of your local laws.
Follow all your local laws. But beside from that, this will be my little fun little thing about this is I am probably going to form a 5.56 FTN4.
Based.
It's a base, just only. I'm only doing the stupid form one because I'm going to upload a video about it. Okay, I'm going to upload
No,
it
dude.
and I'm going to
Yeah,
talk about it.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
I will say this: one of the benefits for it is, I will say this: there is an A2 birdcage version of it. So if you just
Yes,
kind of
there
want
is.
to, have a nice little doohickey that just attaches to your gun, and no questions asked, nothing really there. Hey, you can do it. But if you're like me and you want to be a nice little law cuck and just listen to your local laws, that's what I'm going to be doing. Uh,
Hell yeah.
I I am looking forward to at least shooting it up or shooting with it. I'm curious on seeing the back pressure on a 5.56. I mean, the fact that it's rated for 5.56 is sort of just unheard of when you think about it. From what it does this time around, there's an aluminum sleeve for it. It's got a little bit of a flash hider. There is a
Yes.
Greek arms castle thing that almost makes it look like a quick detach thing, which is kind of
Yes.
fascinating to me. So that's the one I'm going with. Is I'm going to do the quick detach system of I'm using a Greek arms muzzle brake with their blast can, attach the blast can to it. But there's another thing too with it, and I guess to avoid bringing current events too much to date this, there is a pistol. There's a couple pistol variants of it as well, and there is a pistol variant with a booster in it, your Nielsen device. So if you were to shoot it on a semi-automatic gun, maybe like a Chairman One V1, FDMA frame, you can have it not jam on you every single shot if you put a nice little booster on it.
DIY booster, yeah, or
You know,
DIY Nielsen device.
I will kind of mention about that of like I don't know who was the first one that was starting that. I know Pemby was the first one. I remember his little Nielsen device that he was doing.
Uh huh.
I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure if that was the original one that went with this one, and if PLA Boy did his own thing. I remember we were gonna talk.
I don't know.
We were gonna. I
Yeah.
was gonna talk to PLA Boy about this at some point. That's not gonna happen anymore now. But
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, PLA boy retired
I
with this release, so he's doing fine. But he's retired. So
and I
that's just
respect him on doing that. There's basically he did what he wanted to do. I think
uh
out
huh.
of all the developers, like a lot of the newer developers that came out recently, he was probably one of the most like consistently good ones I've seen of. He kind of stuck to what he did. He would always upload videos of him shooting his suppressor. So like that's the big reason why I'm even doing this myself is I saw him basically shooting it all the time. He would always post videos of him shooting it, and he was always kind of dedicated on the whole suppressor thing. Kept himself pretty messaged. Sort of kind of locked focus on what he wanted to do. Always stayed out of drama. Really good about that too. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of a thing that happened with him, but it was sort of I don't even really care about that one. I don't think anyone does either.
No,
But
he's a stand-up guy,
but
big
like,
time.
yeah, out of a lot of the developers, I think he's a good person to model yourself off of. Just someone who kind of
Mm-hmm.
had what he wanted to do, focused on it, and I guess he kind of his little farewell address, if anything you want to call it that, was more or less of him saying, I did what I wanted to do, and I didn't really think it was going to blow up as big as it did, but I'm glad it did. And if anything, I'm looking forward to seeing who else sees this and wonders what else they can build off from it. He a very good leaving point for pushing things really far from where they were. I want to see. I bet give it a couple of years, maybe someone might be able to see what he did and kind of push it further, I guess. Because
Well,
if you were to tell me a year ago we would be having
right,
5.56 suppressors that
right,
actually could shoot 5.56 for multiple, more than like a couple rounds, I would have probably said that's crazy. We had just
right,
gotten the Crescent, which could barely, that was doing 9mm, and I don't think it could do 300 blackout at the time, or I might
right.
have been able to do it, but only like maybe subsonics. Now we have I think did he do full auto? I think it was full auto rated. Like he was shooting full
Yeah,
auto in it, so that is just a huge leap in development,
yeah.
and
No, it's an incredible accomplishment, and it is definitely the top it's the top tier and the forefront of the 3D printed suppressor game. I really believe that if we get lucky in the next couple of years and we can remove suppressors from the NFA, or even better, remove the NFA, this is going to blow up, like crazy, because you're not going to have to go somewhere to get hearing protection. You'll be able to produce it right there in your home, and it'll cost you, a
That's
dollar.
nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
my position on this is technically I'm being extorted a $200 tax stamp.
Yeah.
So like,
True.
okay, $200 plus whatever, like, $50 or $60 on all this other stuff. Not the end of the world, but it's a great.
No, it's not.
It's a great deal. I mean, it really makes you aware of how stupid the NFA is. But
Absolutely.
I will say, like, I want to upload it. I want to shoot it a little bit just to like kind of show people like how it does act as a suppressor. Because I mean, it's one of those things where like it is, and this would be probably the cheapest suppressor you could get. The cheapest 5.56 suppressor you could probably get, and if it works well, then that is going to be amazing, and I'm going to be happy for it. But I guess we are at how many hours are we right now? We're at an hour and 15. We've gone a little bit long. This is going to be a joy to edit. So with that, I will leave it there. Thank you.
Sounds great, man.
Thank you, Berkeley, and have a wonderful rest of your guys' day.